address. So I would defer to the superintendent if you have a plan that you'd like to move forward with the materials, and then we can get to the remaining questions, or however you'd like to do it.
The meeting, thank you, Madam Chair. The meeting that was scheduled on this, the agenda that we had sent out was initially to answer to that one motion regarding the hiring process and the background checks. And there was a discussion on the floor that we talked about, would these need to be reviewed given that the policy around these has been so old? And I think it was Jackie Doherty who brought that motion as well as the discussion. So the preparation for this meeting was along that. And there was another report on personnel. And we noticed when we gave you last time during the school committee, we gave you the list of all the motion. We tried to put the dates, estimate the dates of where we're gonna, plan to do that. And I think it was planned for December 6th. And I know I asked Ann Sheehy whether she had worked on on that, and she assured me that it will be delivered on time as scheduled on December 6th. So today, I know that the team is prepared to talk about specifically the hiring process, the background checks, and the policies around that if they need to be, if you feel like they need any revision in policy or anything like that. And of course, you can always ask other questions. We might be able to answer on the floor, or we might just defer them to that December 6th within the report that's coming for the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, well, we can certainly start there. So looking at the hiring practices, Ms. Doherty's initial motion, hiring practices around background checks, other personnel matters, ensuring that policies are clear and being followed appropriately.
Did you want me to speak?
You can start with that one.
Okay. Thank you. So, as you know, this actually came up, there's a number of prongs to this. It started with the summer meeting around the screening committees, and I had questions about how we can ensure that our screening committees are more impactful, and that we have these community and personnel who come and meet and interview candidates and put forward whatever their finalist candidates are, and to make sure that those screening committees feel that they have an impact. So we had asked for additional information about that. I didn't get anything on that to move from. In terms of the background checks and the drug screen process, I had emailed the whole team, I guess it was Tuesday, asking for the actual policy language, which I never received. And I went on the website, it's not on the website. So I'm not really sure how we can review our policies when we don't have our policies in front of them in time for me to prepare for this meeting.
Policies are on the website.
The policy manual is on the website. The piece of the...
You turn it on.
Sorry, the policy manual is on the website. The piece of the policy manual that pertains to our employees is what goes out in the offer email to all employees, and I do go over that in this report, and I do have the policy manual, which I sent to you about a month ago at the superintendent's direction.
Would you like to present your report since you prepared it?
Sure. And I do have a copy of the policy manual as well, if you want.
So that was sent to the committee or to Ms.
It
Doherty?
was sent to Ms. Doherty because she requested it, and I verified with the superintendent, and he asked me to send it. So the policy manual itself, but it is available on the website.
I went on the website yesterday morning after I got the email. I was at work, but I got the email without the information I had requested, that I copied everybody on this committee, their request for information about the actual language. And it said that the report was not available at this time. So maybe it's available today, it wasn't available yesterday?
You're asking about the policy manual is not on the website, or the report is not on the website?
The policy manual.
The policy manual has always been on the website. You might not have been able to find it, but it has always been on the website.
I did email it to you, and I have copies if you'd like me to pass them out, and I refer to it in this report. So this report that I was asked to do covers what was on the agenda for this meeting, which is review hiring practices, policies, and background checks. And that's what I go over in these 7 pages. Okay? So,
Yeah, she should present it.
Can I just say something real quick? I believe that any question you would have about any issue we have, she's prepared. She's probably coming here with only a certain amount of information to be ready for tonight, but she's been ready for us for over a month. I don't know the reasons behind it, why it's not running more smoothly, but that's a big issue for me is the HR office. And the reason why I want to speak tonight on it is when we look for screening committees, we look for other people to get involved, to hire someone or find the person we need. To me, that can be a real difficult thing to do. It's just like we don't have the power to really hire anybody, it's the superintendent. But with the HR office, to me, and I think that office has done spectacular work for the past 20 months since I've been here. Why it hasn't come out more smoothly is beyond me. And Madam Chair, I'm really confused on everything tonight. But the last thing I want to say is a great HR office, all we need to do is let them do their job, let them pick 2 or 3 good candidates that they believe should be either the AD or a principal, and put them in front of the superintendent to pick his favorite one out of the 3. It should be that easy and that smooth. This issue, there's no other issues that have me more confused than this tonight. And that's about all I'm going to say tonight. But I think the HR office, we should have been patting them on the back, and we haven't really done that at all. I'm not saying we're not about to do that, but it is a big issue for me to fix, and I hope we all stay cool and calm and get this fixed finally, once and for all. Thank you.
Go ahead. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
And why don't you try to summarize, since the interest of this meeting was to discuss about the hiring process. Pick an example, whichever example you wish, whether it's a teacher or a principal or anything, and describe what the process is, and then describe after that the next step, which is really the background check, because that
Sure.
was in the motion as well.
So in this document, if you look at, it's numbered page 3, it's a picture of our website, and it shows how we've changed our posting to reflect the new teacher contract language. So the new UTL 2017 to 2020 contract has new specific contract language. We no longer are required to post a teacher compendium, and we're free to post positions as they become available. So positions are first posted with more of an emphasis now on internal transfers for 15 days as stipulated in the new contract. And the district website has updated to reflect the change in our hiring process. So if you note on the left-hand side, it has a link for internal job postings and public job postings. So on the next page, I have listed the new transfer protocol. This is the specific transfer language in the contract that the principals review upon interviewing teacher candidates, and we abide by all of these items stipulated. So the position is immediately posted for 15 days on the district website with access limited to teachers and paras who are currently permanent hires. All teachers and paras will contemporaneously be informed via their school email. And the requests for transfers follow the protocol that we've been using in the HR office. When a transfer is made, where applicable, a teacher or para's background, certification, quality of teaching performance, skills required by the job, and length of service in the Lowell Public Schools shall be considered. If other variables are equal, length of service shall be the controlling factor. So what that's referring to is if you have a number of transfer applicants for one position. All teacher or paras requesting a transfer shall receive written notice from the principal as soon as possible following their interview as to the disposition of the request, but no longer than 2 weeks. On the rare instance there are no requests for transfer, only then can there be a public advertisement. And that's when we go to that link that says public job postings. All transfers granted and all permanent hires are effective on the first day of the following school year. So with this new protocol, the UTL positions are first on the internal site using the product School Stream. And then after the 15-day period, if there are no transfers moving into the position, we post the position on School Spring. And that's the public postings. And I just refer there to the screenshot of our website. So the HR office and principals work collaboratively to ensure an accurate count of the open positions each year that are going to be posted. We include all known resignations and retirements. So we list these on the website, in the personnel office, and we also provide copies of that to the UTL and in each building. So after the 15-day posting period, appropriately licensed permanent teacher voluntary transfer requests must be sent to the personnel office. We compile them using our online system. The principals are designated as the hiring manager, and they collaborate with us to determine the qualified candidates. So there may be an instance where we need to review licensure and things like that for the principal, and we provide that information. Those staff members must be interviewed abiding by the collective bargaining agreement. After that period, if no internal transfer is to take place, teachers from the list of eligible teachers and qualified promising new candidates are contacted for interviews or are obtained on School Spring, that public posting site that I referred to. Principals also sometimes receive resumes directly, and during the public posting period, that's okay if they do so. They just forward them to my office so that we can put them in with the others and make sure that they were received in the correct time frame. Candidates must provide recent resumes, letters of reference, transcript, and teaching license. The principal works, so now I'm talking about the school-based interview team. The principal works collaboratively with our office to develop the school-based interview team consisting of the principal, representative teaching and para staff members, sometimes expert providers or representatives from higher education, school site council representatives, parents. This committee is formed to screen the resumes of candidates and conduct interviews of all permanent teacher transfer requests, and then the other qualified candidates if there are some public candidates selected for interviewing. After the interviews are conducted, the panels recommend the teacher candidate for hire. They complete an interview sheet, which gives us information on each interview, each candidate, what their qualifications were, details about specifics that they offered in the interview process. They fax those to the personnel office, and these are really crucial to the process. They must provide information on the process so that we can verify that the team followed the contractual language and we were abiding with the teacher contract, and we're also ensuring that the candidates that are going forward are all qualified. The interview sheet must tell us why candidates were not selected, as well as qualifying information on the selected candidate. The principal is, at this time, responsible for conducting reference checks. And when I say reference checks there, I'm talking about phone calls to their references. I'm not referring to the Corey process yet. This reference check process I'm talking about is the one that the team conducts with the principal. So they might call somebody who gave a letter of reference, or a principal from a previous district or another school. So after the team goes through that process and they give us the recommendation to hire, the personnel office conditionally offers the position to the selected candidate via email and in some cases via telephone. As part of this offer, the candidate must confirm receipt of our employee policy handbook. And so if you see the offer email, we actually have a link to each piece of the employee handbook so that we can be assured that they actually read all of those policies. The personnel office staff then meets with each selected candidate to review licensure, transcripts, letters of verification of past employment. At this meeting, the proposed salary and step on the pay scale is determined based on the verification of provided documentation. So we can place a new teacher up to step 5 only if we have verification that they have that experience from another public school district. In some cases, we may put a staff member a little bit higher on recommendation and okay from the superintendent if it's a hard-to-fill position, and we usually collaborate with the union to agree on that piece. The office then reviews the results of fingerprinting, drug screening, and the criminal background check, the query, prior to the final offer and the determination of the start date. The determination of the start date is done collaboratively with us and the principal, depending on what the position is and when they want the person to start. So if you look at the last page, the bulleted list is really the process that we go through with each candidate before they're really brought on board, when they're just a proposed selected teacher or para. So we check their licensure. We place them in their mentoring assignment with the Lowell Teacher Academy. We schedule and review results of their physical exam and their drug screening. We send them to do their fingerprinting. We run their query. We verify their previous employment. We do career and licensure advising, so some people may be coming in with a preliminary, and when they do, we want to know what their next steps are to go to initial or professional licensure, whichever is applicable. And we set them on the pay scale after reviewing the transcripts against the contractual language and the verification forms from their previous districts.
Great, thank you very much. So a couple, I think, short questions, and then I know I'll have questions from the other members of the two subcommittees. First off, when you go through this process, is this the same process for an internal candidate as it is for an external candidate? So if an internal candidate's trying to move from one school to another, they're still going through the school-based, the screening committee interview, the background check process, all that stuff is happening regardless of how they come into the system?
We do go through the same process. We usually have the principals talk to each other as well, because we want to make sure that one principal is aware that the person may be leaving so they can prepare. We don't do the query check again, although we query check our employees every 3 years. So we know that everybody is up to date on their query.
So you're not going through this whole process for an internal, all that background, which makes sense, I'm just asking.
Not every
Sounds like you
piece,
wouldn't do
no.
it, but, okay.
Although if it's somebody that holds an initial licensure, it is a time to recheck with them, where do you stand on obtaining your professional licensure, that type of thing.
Okay. With the screening committees, the school-based interview team, you would use the term expert providers. I wasn't sure what that meant.
So what I'm referring to there is, for instance, I'm going to give an example of the Bartlett Community Partnership School. Obviously, they have a very strong partnership with UMass Lowell. So when they do their interviews, they always bring in an expert provider, being a professor from UMass Lowell, or sometimes I know the previous dean was involved in interviews. And other schools also bring in Middlesex, UMass Lowell, other expert providers. It may be someone associated with early childhood.
Okay, so it is, so we are still maintaining that kind of outside community voice consistently with all of our screening committees?
Yes.
Okay. My next question would be, we had talked at a previous subcommittee about specifically around the screening committees and looking to develop some kind of best practices in terms of how we follow up with the members of the screening committee, how we kind of glean from them how they felt about the process, how they felt their experience was, and if they felt it was a productive, experience for them. Have we made any move in developing that kind of a proposal?
So I have been collecting anecdotal data in discussing the process with principals, but we are also developing a survey so that we can send that out to people after they participate in the process, so that they can give us feedback on how they think the process worked, didn't work, or what kind of feedback they want to give us.
So when would we be thinking that that's something we could take a look at, the survey and the kind of overall process that you want to develop?
So we could bring that forward as a report before we institute, if you'd like. We could put it in one of the HR reports.
I think it would definitely make sense for that to come back to the personnel subcommittee, just to kind of go full circle with it. I would, in terms of timing, I'd certainly recommend, because you're going to be moving into the hiring season soon after the new year. So anything we could do to nail down things now would be make the whole process easier when we get to that point. I'm sorry. So questions?
Did you have more?
You can go.
Actually, on that same topic, we met, I want to say, June or July about this issue, and we had a formal motion at that subcommittee meeting asking for a report with recommendations moving forward, as Ms. Martin mentioned, with getting feedback from the committees to know that those screening committees felt their time was well used, but also to look at how to ensure that they're impactful. And I'm going to go back to your paragraph about the school-based screening committees. It seems by the language here that whoever the committee recommends is who gets hired. Is that how this works at a school-based level?
At first glance, I would say it is, but we go through that process with the Corey and the background check.
I mean, that's hired contingent upon passing background checks, but my concern, I'm fine with that at the school-based level, but when we were talking about higher-up, manager-level people being hired, I mean, as you all know, one of the concerns was regarding the athletic director process, that we had a screening committee that recommended candidates that never made it to the next step. And so I'm just trying to figure out how that's different from the school, and is it different? But from this report, it would seem to imply that the screening committee recommends the finalist and that person gets hired.
Chair, if I may, why don't we leave the implications and the imply, and why don't we just address it directly, clearly, so there is no implication. The law is very clear in school site-based, the person to decide school-based employment offers and selection is the principal. So to answer to your previous question, the select committee may decide, they may all agree on one candidate that the principal had agreed on, but it's the same thing at any level, that the screening committees or selection committees, whatever we want to call them, they're really all advisory boards to the person who has to make a decision. The person who has to make a decision is the principal at the end of the day. For the schools, in a department, it's usually the head of department, and our recommendation always comes from the head of the department and also from the principals too when they're hiring somebody, to the superintendent. Because again, the law is very clear that any employment is by the superintendent. The superintendent, I don't remember the exact wording of the chapter that in the law, but we can fish it out, we can bring it out. The law, the superintendent is the CEO in the building and has the full power to hire and fire any employee in the building. So that's really the process. So these advisory boards are just that, they're advisory boards. There is no implication at all, and in any part, whether superintendent directives or school committee policies or the law, that says that their recommendation shall be the choice. Okay.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I'm in no way suggesting that the screening committee should make the decision. What I'm trying to point out is the language here, after interviews are conducted, panels recommend teacher candidates for hire, complete interview sheets and fax original interview forms to the personnel office. My whole intention with this, back in June, when I came to the meeting in that hot night, was to just clarify what our policies are.
Right.
And to make sure that we're following them. I find it very difficult to do with just this report. And that's why I asked for additional information to be shared with the committee here, so that we would have time to really look at the policy and understand, you know, what is it we're trying to do, and are there changes we want to make? And I refer back to that request that night, which was a report from you guys. You know, I think Mr. Hall was implicated in helping with a recommendation because of concerns that came to me. People came to me and said, I was on a screening committee and the person I recommended didn't make it to the next step.
Did they tell you why?
Excuse me?
Did they tell you why?
No, they didn't know why.
Because I remember telling you why in public on the school committee, I answered that. I remember having answered it.
I don't remember knowing
It is on
why.
record, and it's recorded. I remember answering
Well, it
it.
doesn't need to be a secret. You can tell us again then.
I will. I will tell you. And maybe that would that'll be when this you brought it up and about the AD, and I had asked you if you recall. I said, "Are you hearing this about all the screening committees or just the AD screening committee?" And the answer was just only the AD screening committee, because I don't know of any other school committee. And I said, if you have any other instance, please refer them to us. Because to my recollection, I don't remember any other case where that the screening committee, because that brought candidates and we did not pick from them. That was the only time. If you're referring to the head of school, or the high school, that was a two-step committee. There were two committees. There was the screening committee and there was the selection committee. And the selection committee was made up of the mayor, the city manager, myself, the assistant superintendents, and that was the selection committee. That was the only time. So the recommendations of the screening committee that were brought up in front of the selection committee, none of them were selected. They had brought us 3 names, and the selection committee decided not to go recommend to me any of the 3 names. So that was the only second case, because that was the second step. But the only time that there was only one committee of selection and screening was for the AD, and that was the only
But do
time.
you remember that we asked for recommendations of how to go forward to make sure this doesn't happen? Do
Why
you
would-
remember that part of the conversation? Because that led to the next step
But, Ms.
about background checks.
Mr. Doherty, here's what I'm confused with. Because you're saying, give me a recommendation that doesn't happen again. What happened? Nothing wrong had happened. The fact that the superintendent decided to stop the process where it was, and because maybe you don't remember, I'll repeat what I said the last time in the overall committee. When the recommendation came to me, and it became very clear to me that there were 3 members on the screening committee that 2 of them had written recommendation for the people that they are advancing to the final. And that 3 of them had already declared who they wanted before we even started the interviews by virtue of this is in the AD. At that point, any superintendent, not just myself, or any manager in anywhere in the world would say, obviously, that immediately invalidates this search process. So we interrupted the search, and at that point, we took all the applications, not just the ones that they gave us. If I don't remember the number what it was around 28 or something. We went back to step 0, we took all the 28, and we had no more time to wait. So at that point, I looked at who is this AD reporting to. It reports to the assistant superintendent of curriculum, and it reports to the head of school, which at that time was Mr. Brian Martin. I made copies of all of these, and I said to them, this person reports to you. Please put a committee together, or whatever you want to do it, and give me a recommendation. And I stepped out of the process. These 2 put together a new committee, reviewed the entire candidate, not just the 3 that were advanced by the previous committee, and then they came back to me with recommendation, and only one recommendation to hire the current person we hired. And they said, as long as you 2, this person reports to you, you're happy with the person, it's fine with me. Everything checks out. That was what had happened. It had nothing to do with us not taking the advice of the screening committees, because we always do. These were the only 2 times that a screening committee, the one time was on the AD, and the other time because it was a selection committee that was coming after.
So when we asked for recommendations for improving the process going forward, which included this wraparound piece where we asked the committee members how the process worked for them, that survey that Ms. Shih recommended.
That's
Was your
being
thinking we didn't need it, and that's why it wasn't provided? Because that's been months and months ago.
Did I say that? I said
Well, we haven't gotten it yet, and we finally have this hiring personnel meeting to discuss our screening policy, our background checks, and, we get,
I think she just answered, Ms. Sheehy, to tell you that
most
she
of
has
this was talking about our transfer policy. There's one line about the screening and the query checks, and then there's a little asterisk, refer to the policy. The Corey, which wasn't provided with the material for this meeting. I'm sorry, I'm frustrated because.
Well, I'm frustrated too,
wanna
because
move
we've given you an
forward,
answer.
And I think it's
Ms.
just
Sheehy
basic
just answered to
communication.
you, said, we collect anecdotal information directly from the team, and we are now moving to a process of a survey, and the question was asked, I don't know by what number, can you please bring the survey in to us to review before you implement it? And the answer was yes.
But to
So I
Ms.
thought we
Doherty's
addressed
point,
that.
that's the exact conversation we had in the summer. And we had asked for it to come to us then, because as you described the situation referencing the AD position and the head of school position, I know at that time I had said there were other instances and that it was historical. And again, I had said it predates you, it predates this HR office. There are always,
I'm
sorry, I was
not
gonna-
aware of anyone, I really am not.
okay,
And I
so
would
I'm
be
just going
more
to
than
finish
happy
my
to
thought,
hear, you know.
because it's really to help, that the situation is that I cannot, I've had people approach me who have served on screening committees who've been frustrated by the process, and they're not comfortable being named as having problems. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But what I'm saying is, what we came up with as a proposal to try and improve things was to make this request to provide this kind of feedback loop so that people who are in our screening committees have an opportunity to communicate back what that experience was like in a way that was clear and in a way that wouldn't invite reprisals. That's what we had requested back in the summer.
And as I
So-
said, it's coming to you.
And I think that's great.
with the report
I
of
think
it.
when we came into this meeting, though, to talk about screening committees, I was hopeful that that was something that we were going to be talking about
We didn't see it that way. I thought you were looking at the hiring process.
in the screening
and the
committees. I mean,
steps,
that's
and
actually cited.
also- So,
But then it was very clear on my email yesterday, the additional information I was looking for. I want to move forward in a
if
positive
you
way.
want to, yes, we are.
I really do.
You will get it, believe me.
I need the information, and I need to have time to go over it so that we can have a meaningful meeting, and not a meeting where we're just
Doherty.
kind of blabbing at each other.
Ms. Doherty,
Frustrated.
we are moving in a very positive way. You've heard Ms. Sheehy telling you she's going to be submitting it to you with even the survey itself, the suggested survey, with the next HR. We can sit down here and we can spend a lot of time talking why it wasn't done before. It's not going to go move any sooner than it's coming with the scheduled HR, report delivery.
So that would be at our next meeting,
Yes.
Yes,
December 6th?
yes.
We'll have the proposed survey and the structure for the way that'll work. That'd be great.
And if we could just go back to the drug screen, Corey check, background checks, all those things. So we're not doing reference checks until someone has been indicated to be a finalist, is that correct?
So I want to clarify what you're referring to, because I know at some points in the previous meeting, you characterized it as reference checks, and at other times, Corey checks. So when I talk about reference checks here, I'm talking about calling references.
Right,
And when I talk
background.
about
Corey, that's
background, I'm
Corey.
talking about the Corey. So which one are you referring to, Ms. Doherty?
I'm referring to a comment that the superintendent made when I asked why the screening committee's finalists could not move to the next step. And he said that sometimes background checks show there might be reasons that you don't want to move someone forward. So I guess I just want to make sure that we're doing that later on in the stage. So
Yeah.
by background check, what did you mean?
So,
Whatever was meant and applied, let's clarify it once and for all. Whatever words we use in the past. Reference check is when we check the references, professional references, personal references, whatever that might be. Background check, what we mean is the Corey and the new fingerprint that the state requires us to do. And to my knowledge, the way it has always been done, way predating me, before even the fingerprinting, when it was only the Corey, that last step is usually left when you're almost, this is the person you want, because we can't, that's really very private, and we don't go ask any candidate that unless we're ready to offer them the job.
So the Corey, the fingerprinting, all that stuff happens when you have an accepted candidate. You've offered the position, they want it, it's all contingent upon passing all these background checks, the Corey check, and then at that point, when does the drug screen happen? And that would be policy language I think we need to look at. So that is also with the fingerprinting and the Corey that we do the drug screening?
The items listed on the last page, the bullets on page 6, those are the items that are done in the last stages.
So when the offer letter goes out, it says that it's contingent upon passing those, okay?
Yes, it does.
So have we ever hired somebody without passing those tests?
Please clarify passing. The laws in Massachusetts have changed with respect to drugs. Please clarify what you mean by passing the drug test.
I mean, that checklist, the fingerprinting, Corey, the drug screen, is the drug screen on here?
Well, it's the medical, everybody,
Yep,
it's
it's
a
on the
policy.
third bullet.
Physical exam and drug screening, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
So have we hired someone and had somebody working prior to passing that or after?
Nobody that has anything that violates the laws, no one that I know of. Or in the Corey, if we discover something really bad in the Corey, we immediately I can't talk about specifics, obviously.
Right, oh, obviously.
But we know that, but we did have cases where the Corey was not acceptable, and we said, sorry, we can't
But
let
that
you
person hadn't started in the
hired.
schools.
Yeah, and the same thing if it comes into drugs or anything. Now, as you are very well aware, the laws in Massachusetts have changed with respect to marijuana drugs, which is now legal.
Right,
So it's a little bit different now from 2 years ago.
Right.
If somebody tested something positive for that, you could eliminate them. If somebody tests positive for that in the summer, when school is over, I think if you eliminate them, you might end up with a lawsuit on your hand.
so I guess since we don't have that policy information in front of us and we're not prepared to really discuss it tonight, I would be looking in that recommendation report that you're going to be providing us for what are your recommendations about our drug screen policy? Do we need to change the language because the state laws have changed regarding medical marijuana use? Should we have something in there that you have to have a prescription?
You have the policy there?
Right here. So the policy handbook, the one that I had referred to sending you and the one that I have here, is the one that is in the offer email. So every employee goes through this when they're offered a position, and they also go through this on the orientation day. It's provided by Ms. Durkin's office and my office. So employees see this manual twice, and every single orientation day, they receive it again.
So
They
has
sign
the-
off on page-
Has it been updated to reflect the changes in the mass laws regarding marijuana use?
So over the summer, it was reviewed, and we did verify that it was all up to date.
So just to clarify, has a policy been updated?
Sorry. I don't think we have changed any policy because it would have come back to the policy
Right.
subcommittee first. We did not bring any
So we haven't
changes.
updated anything in
No,
light of the
we
new
just-
laws? Okay.
We just
So that's what
applied
we want
the
to be
law.
able to, yeah, so that's what we
just
want to
apply-
be able to consider.
That
I
was
might
what I was
just-
hoping to discuss tonight.
If I might just add, Ms. Durkin brought the policy handbook to this body in one of the meetings and went over the changes that were made over the summer. It's the same policy handbook. So if you
So I guess
recall,
what we're
she went
hoping
over
to
each
do
section.
is acknowledge that the laws have changed in our state and that our policy will likely have to change. So we'd be looking to get a recommendation from the administration as to what the recommended change to the policy would be. That's what we were hoping to do.
Specifically as it relates to the drug screening piece.
I mean, we'll look into that, but I'm not so sure we have anything specific in terms of anything. We just follow the law. And I think, and the contract negotiations that we have. We'll look into the policies, and are you suggesting we should have a specific policy to say, like if somebody is test positive for an illicit drug, for instance, that we were not going to hire them? Is that what you're looking for?
No, I think that would be clear. If somebody tested positive for an illicit drug, we're not going to hire that person. But if somebody tests positive for marijuana use, do we want to require that they have a medical, I mean, it's one thing, you can drink alcohol, that's legal if you're 21 years or older. You can't be drinking on school grounds when you're teaching.
No doubt.
So there's just seems to be, there may be some nuances that we want to be thinking about, and that was my hope, to
But
just
that's-
kind of look at that issue and,
Yeah, but that's two different issues, because when somebody is drinking in school, or smoking, even regular cigarette is not allowed, as you know, in our schools. Or marijuana is not any different. I mean, if cigarette smoking is not allowed, why would marijuana be allowed? Obviously. So, however, for the hiring process, it's usually a medical test that takes place. Most of the time, the medical test is, we send them, they take it even before they're our employees. So they may test positive for alcohol there because they just had a drink and they was, I think, silly enough to have a drink and go take the medical test. That's foolish. They shouldn't be doing that.
True enough.
But it could
But
happen.
I think the difference is that with the medical marijuana, you would test positive for 30 days.
Right.
So, I mean, and yet it would still be considered legal. I mean, so it is a different, I mean, we're not going to be the only ones grappling with this. There's going to be a lot of corporations and everyone else. I think we're just trying to get ahead of it. And I think particularly timing-wise, in a difficult hiring environment, we're going to want to know exactly what flexibility we have. So I think that's what we're looking for in terms of a
I
recommendation.
think this is something that all the districts are grappling with, because I've seen a lot of email in between in school committees, and I don't think anyone has a specific answer, because I don't think even the government has an answer. I mean, if you hear the reports, is even the legal system doesn't have an answer on this one. So,
I think we're looking to be part of the conversation.
Sure.
So recognizing that there may not be a final determination, but I think it's something that the policy subcommittee should be considering. And it would be great to be getting information from other districts, from the government as they're releasing things, so that as we're crafting a policy, we could be well informed to move forward. And I think we're really looking for that foundation information right now to start that process.
Madam Chair, I'll be more than happy to ask our labor attorney to look at the law, look at what maybe other districts are doing, and try to come up, and also because eventually whatever we do, we would have to negotiate it with our labor unions. If they see it, we need them to be on board, so we're all working at this as partners, and we'll be more than happy to ask him to look at a simple policy that they can bring to the policy subcommittee.
I'd certainly advise we include the city as well, just because we're not going to be able to do anything independently. It will have to be the overall. So I think that we've covered what has been provided at this point, unless anyone has any additional. So just to quickly recap so that we can come in on December 6th with what we're looking for. I think that would be helpful, just so we're clear about that. So the first one is that looking for the information on the screening committees and the recommendation for that new kind of protocol and information gathering. If I forget anything, please jump in. Also looking for the information on the diversity staffing initiatives and the results to date. So that, I believe, is scheduled already for December 6th. So we'll be able to look at that then? Okay. And then was there anything else we wanted to make sure
well, the whole discussion about how do we have more impact with the screening committees, that the superintendent felt that only 2 instances that were out of the norm, but we were still looking for recommendations of how do we make sure that.
Sure, if I may ask.
Because if I could just finish that sentence, sorry.
Please.
Even with your example that at the high school you had to kind of start the process over because you found that people on the screening
For the
committee.
AD?
I'm not sure what role it was, but
The AD.
for the AD role, that people came in with a preconceived plan about who they, so even that is something that maybe we could improve the process so that the screening, just looking at ways to make the screening committees have more of an impact.
I think we could strengthen the policy that say if you're one part of the recommendations for any candidate, you're automatically disqualified from being, because that's usually the norm everywhere, even though I don't think of any district has that that I know of has necessarily a written policy, but that's really kind of the norm. I have people come in and ask me for, in my previous job, they would ask me for recommendation. I say, you realize that if I give you a recommendation, it cannot be on any on any search committee that you're as a candidate in it. So, and that's usually has been the way we've always worked, is that if somebody is on the, I asked one of my deputies, superintendent, I asked her one time to be on the search committee. She said, I can't, because I already wrote a recommendation, so I can't. So I think it's like common sense. We don't really need, sometimes, policies are great, but we don't always need a policy to apply common sense. In this case, these people failed to apply the common sense, so it was upon us to enforce it, to say, well, it's common sense. You can't be a candidate when you wrote the recommendation to the finalist, because, other people are going to really say that's not fair, So that's why we said we have to stop the process and restart it. But on that question, what I would like to ask you, because I do recognize the importance of maintaining the names anonymous, and that's, we would never ask you for who reported something to you. That will never come out. But we would like to hear about the cases. You don't have to tell us who told you the information. If you feel that any process has gone wrong, or people felt that they were just used just for the, as a check mark that we did it or whatever, they were disrespect, please let us know about the case, not about the person who reported to you. That's what I meant, but you need to let me know, not let me know about the people who reported. Because honestly, I'm being extremely honest to tell you, this is my 3rd year. I only know of 2 cases. Every other one that I know, the search committee, the person selected from the finalists was usually the person from the 3 or 4 submitted from the search committee, or 2 or whatever.
Are there any other questions, concerns, anything we need for the 6th? I know that there are a number of different reports that are coming on the 6th, so I'm sure we'll have a great deal of information to review. So I'll thank you for adding on this additional one. That would be great. I don't know if any of the other, even a new committee member gets to ask a question, if you have any.
I didn't want to ask a question. I just wanted to clarify something. If you go to the website looking for the policy, depending what type of device apparently that you're looking on, I did get the same message that you got, that the policy was being revised. However, if you clicked on the link, it opens up to the 798-page policy that we have. So we do have a 798-page policy online, and it does, trust me, I've gone through it a couple times. It does take some time, and we do need to look at trying to shrink that policy manual.
If I can comment?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification, because that's exactly what happened to me. It said the policy was being revised. But just the fact that the unwieldiness of the manual, an 800-page manual, that when we have a meeting scheduled to discuss these issues, and I've asked myself number of times to please provide the relevant material in advance so I can review it, so I can be more prepared and we can move more quickly and be more efficient and effective. It was particularly frustrating to me that this committee did not get, and maybe you did send it to me, I'm not sure, a while ago on some other matter. I think there was someone who was looking for something else. But to have those sections included in an electronic email to us so that we could have read that would have been very helpful. And it's very important to me, and I'm saying it again because of that. For any of these meetings that we have, we need to have the reports at least 24 hours, I would say 48 hours would be better, before the meeting, because I work during the day. This is not my job. This is a community service I do. I need to have time to read the reports, and I would just like to add that. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So the 4 items I believe you're asking for are the info on screening committees and a survey reaching out to the participants. Number 2, you want the diversity staffing initiatives. Number 3, you want the hiring numbers from this hiring season. And number 4, how can screening committees have more impact? Is that correct?
1 and 4. Right. I would link 1 and 4 together. I mean, because I think we'd like to get a really comprehensive kind of, this is the protocol we're going to put in place to get that feedback loop built. So the survey is part of it, but that is very obviously closely linked with the impact
Okay.
of the screening committee.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Gignac?
Ms. Martin, thank you very much. I have a question for the HR director. Do the members of the screening committees at any level sign off on a confidentiality agreement or anything like that?
We did institute confidentiality agreements for those 2 screening committees that we discussed, the AD and the head of school. And in the confidentiality agreement, we said that by accepting this binder, you're agreeing that this is a confidential process and that you won't release names or particulars about candidates, et cetera.
So on this, so just those 2 positions currently?
Those were the 2 ones where we had the big screening committee.
Okay. I would recommend perhaps we put that in place. If the committee is to adopt a policy regarding screening committees, that would be a part of it. Because one thing I noticed being involved here is anytime there's a screening committee on any level, everybody seems to know every person that applied for the job. And it's not a sealed tight process, and that has nothing to do with HR or the principal. It's just the fact that these are most of them are just volunteering, and some sort of clear guidelines to really ensure that folks aren't talking about candidates, because people, go for jobs and don't necessarily tell their employers, and then they hear of it, by somebody else. I just think that's another way to protect the district as well as the candidates, because we want to make sure we attract highly qualified candidates that are not afraid to apply for positions, whether they're internal or external. Thank you.
I think really any information that we share with our screening committee could be part of this package. I mean, again, I would like for it to be as comprehensive as possible. So if there's a job description, for lack of a better word, of what it is to be on a screening committee, again, written documentation is always really helpful. So if there was, just kind of a packet that they get, and that may already exist, so I mean, if we get that all together at once, it would make it much easier to go through the whole thing at once.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Hoey.
That's okay. The more I hear, the more I want to say. But what you just said, Mr. Gignac, to me, I call that leaking, and that happens everywhere. It's not just there, it's everywhere. And if the next mayor is listening to this show tonight, please put Jerry Nutter in charge of the policy subcommittee instead of me, because if he's already read that thing twice, I don't even think I went through it once. It's almost like reading the Bible. It's very hard to read. But really, Jerry, you might get that if the next mayor is listening. Dominic, back there, do you have anything you'd like to say tonight, buddy? No, thank you. Okay. I know I'm the chairperson of the policy subcommittee, but when I'm with these 2 girls, they always do my job for me, so this is a nice night for me.
Not the first
Thank
time,
you.
brother.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions, concerns?
Motion
okay.
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Hoey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We stand in adjournment.